Coming up on our newscast tonight, South Korea's Ministry of National Defense releases a video via YouTube showing what went on when a Japanese patrol plane approached a South Korean destroyer. The clip shows Tokyo's aircraft flying in a threatening manner when the ship was engaged in a rescue effort in international waters. The leaders of Pyongyang and Washington both expressed willingness to hold talks soon, and now there are reports that the U.S. is seemingly looking for a possible venue for the second Kim-Trump summit. While U.S. stocks plunged, South Korea's benchmark index bounces back up after hitting its lowest point in 2 years. The turnaround seems to be fueled by reports of possible Washington-Beijing trade talks. News Center begins now. It's 8 p.m. here in Korea, live from our studio in Seoul. This is Arirang News Center. Welcome to our program. I'm Daniel Choi. We begin with the dispute over Japan's claims that a South Korean warship used targeting radar to lock onto its patrol plane. The nation's defense ministry released a video taking on the claims point by point and making the case that the aircraft's low-altitude flight over the ship was dangerous and threatening. Park Ji-won has our top story.
South Korea's Ministry of National Defense released the video on its official YouTube account Friday afternoon. In the video, the Republic of Korea Navy asked Japan why, in international waters where another country's warship is engaged in the humanitarian rescue of a ship in distress, it would send a patrol aircraft on threatening low-altitude flight in the first place. The video says the Japanese plane approached the South Korean destroyer from a distance of just 500 meters and an altitude of just 150 meters. The ship's crew said they heard a loud noise and felt strong vibrations due to the flight, which they said was menacing and threatening. The video released by Japan last week showed that the Japanese plane recognized that the South Korean ship was on a rescue mission, but the South Korean video said the plane nonetheless continued its unprofessional and aggressive flight at a very close distance. A military aircraft, is said, should not conduct such a low-altitude flight near a foreign warship because it could cause accidental clashes. Also, Japan had claimed the plane followed internationally agreed rules when it came to the flight's altitude. For that claim, Japan quoted regulations under the Convention of International Civil Aviation. However, the South Korean Defense Ministry pointed out that Article 3 of the convention clearly states that the agreement applies only to civil aircraft and not to state-operated aircraft, which includes those used by military, customs, and police services. So the video points out that Japan is interpreting an international agreement in an arbitrary way to justify its false claims. South Korea also once again stressed that its warship did not lock on the plane using its fire control radar. Rather, it used only search radars for humanitarian purposes. The Defense Ministry's video pointed out, based on Japan's own video, that the Japanese pilots knew the ship's guns were not pointed at them and knew the South Korean ship had no intention of attacking. Lastly, the video says communications from the Japanese plane were extremely unclear because of loud noises. The video included actual sound recordings from the ship showing the messages were very hard to understand. The Defense Ministry stressed once again that the South Korean Navy had no intention of threatening the Japanese plane, saying that if Japan has any evidence of radar frequency, then it should provide it at working-level meetings. South Korean Ministry also asked Japan to apologize for its aggressive low-altitude flight, urging Japan not to use the incident for political reasons. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
The top diplomats of Seoul and Tokyo spoke on the phone Friday over that matter. According to the foreign ministry, the duo agreed that their defense authorities need to resolve their differences through an agreement. The FMs also discussed the South Korean Supreme Court's recent rulings ordering Japanese firms to compensate the Koreans who were forced to work with no pay during World War II. Kang Kyung-hwa explained the government's stance on the plaintiff's move on Wednesday to seize one of the Japanese firm's local assets. Seoul said it respects the court's decision and is currently working on an overall response to the issue. Despite the rising tension between the two countries, the ministers agreed to continue cooperating closely and to build ties oriented to the future. Washington is reportedly searching for a venue for the second North Korea-U.S. summit that's expected to take place sometime this month or the next. CNN, citing two sources familiar with the organization, reported earlier this week that teams had been sent to multiple locations during the last few weeks of 2018. U.S. officials have not formally shared these locations with North Korea. Trump expressed hopes of meeting Kim early this year. The North Korean leader, in his New Year's speech, also said he is ready to sit down with his American counterpart again anytime. Vietnam, Indonesia, Hawaii, Mongolia, and the demilitarized zone at the inter-Korean border have been mentioned by sources and experts as potential summit venues. In their first meeting since Kim Jong-un's New Year's address, the two Koreas agreed to continue working to develop their relations and to establish peace on the peninsula. It was a regular meeting held at the Joint Liaison Office in Kaesong, where senior officials discussed a range of inter-Korean issues. According to Seoul's Unification Ministry, today's session went on for around 20 minutes. In his New Year's address, the regime's leader also expressed hopes of further cross-border cooperation. In his New Year's speech, Kim Jong-un also mentioned he would like to reopen Kaesong Industrial Complex and resume tours to Kumgangsan Mountain. But standing in the way are the sanctions imposed on the regime. For details, let's turn to our Kan Young-woo.
당면하여 우리는 개성공업지구에 진출하였던 남측 기업인들이 어려운 사정과 민족의 명산을 찾아보고 싶어하는 남녘동포들의 소망을 헤아려 아무런 정제 조건이나 대가 없이 개성공업지구와 금강산 관광을 재개할 용의가 있습니다.
In his New Year's address, the North Korean leader called for the two Koreas to stick together and not allow any external forces, including sanctions and pressure, to hinder their relations. But experts say it would be extremely difficult for North Korea to restart the Kaesong Industrial Complex or the Mount Kumgangsan tours without violating international sanctions.
First of all, it's difficult to pay the workers. Second is that there's no way for anybody to sell the products made in North Korea now. So that's the problem with the Kaesong Industrial Complex.
As for the Mount Kumgangsan tours, the current UN sanctions ban any financial transactions with North Korea. So experts say it would be almost impossible for Kim Jong-un to restart the program by himself. Regardless of the sanctions situation, the North Korean leader's stated desire to improve his regime's economy seems to line up with observations made by Seoul's Unification Ministry. On Friday, data from the ministry showed that the biggest portion of Kim Jong-un's public appearances last year were related to the economy at 41.8%, a 14.1 percentage point increase from 2017. Kan Young-woo, Arirang News.
Here's the latest in a case of a senior North Korean diplomat that went missing. Contrary to initial reports, an Italian official denies that he is under the protection of the country's authorities. Lee Ji-won gets us up to speed with the developments.
The Italian government has confirmed that the missing North Korean diplomat has not requested asylum as of now. An official in Italy's Foreign Affairs Ministry said this to the Associated Press on Thursday, adding that Jo Sung-gil, the chargé d'affaires of the North Embassy in Rome, no longer held diplomatic status in Italy, presumably since his assignment had ended in late November. This comes after South Korean newspaper 중앙일보 reported Thursday, citing diplomatic sources, that Cho had applied for personal security protection from the Italian government in early December, and that he and his family are currently under the protection of Italian authorities. Personal security protection is a diplomatic procedure aimed to prevent people from being repatriated while seeking asylum. According to the paper, Cho went into hiding with his wife in early November in an attempt to seek asylum to a third country. His current whereabouts is still unknown. Though the Italian official said its foreign ministry hadn't received any request for asylum, Italian daily La Repubblica said that it's possible that the North Korean might have turned to other offices, such as Italian intelligence agencies, for assistance. The South Korean government on Thursday said they have no information regarding the report. But according to lawmakers who were briefed by Seoul's intelligence agency, it is not yet clear whether Cho is hoping to defect to South Korea, and there has been no attempt by Cho to contact the government. Cho was dispatched to Italy in May 2015 and started to run the North Korean mission there in October 2017 as the Italian government expelled the North's ambassador Moon Jong-nam after Pyongyang's 6th nuclear test. It's believed that Cho decided to seek asylum after he was ordered to return home. A major reason is deemed to be the education of his children. This is believed to be the third case where a senior North Korean diplomat initially requested asylum to a country other than South Korea, the last one being Tae Young-ho, a former minister at the North's embassy in London, who defected to the South in 2016. 이지원, Arirang News.
We turn our focus to some stock market action now. The KOSPI recovered on news of U.S. and China holding trade talks in Beijing next week. There were concerns that Korean stocks might take their cue from Wall Street and close in the red. Here's Kim Ji-yeon with a breakdown of the numbers.
The benchmark KOSPI, after plummeting to its lowest level in 2 years on Thursday, rose above the psychologically important 2,000 mark on Friday to close at 2,010, a gain of 0.8%. The tech-heavy Kosdaq also rose by more than 1% to close at 664. Investors were buoyed as China's Commerce Ministry said in a statement on its website that a working team led by Deputy U.S. Trade Representative Jeffrey Garish will come to Beijing on January 7th and 8th to have positive and constructive discussions with their Chinese counterparts. This comes as a silver lining as concerns regarding the China-U.S. trade dispute were intensifying on fears of a slowing economy. All three major U.S. stock indices were down by more than 2%, with the tech-heavy NASDAQ posting a 3% loss on Thursday. Apple stock plunged nearly 10% to $142, its biggest single-day drop in 6 years. The company's chief executive, Tim Cook, warned Apple's revenue for the first quarter of the fiscal year would be about 10% lower than expected at $84 billion. Pundits have cited the China-U.S. trade war and the billions of dollars in tariffs they impose on each other during the latter half of last year to have affected Apple's business. Weaker than expected U.S. manufacturing figures also exacerbated market anxiety. A report from the Institute for Supply Management shows that its index of national factory activity has suffered the biggest drop since 2008, the height of the financial crisis. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
The nation's top office is putting off a plan to relocate to a different area of downtown Seoul. It's currently on the grounds of the official presidential residence. The plan was to move just down the street to Gwanghwamun, where other government agencies are, but apparently there's not enough space there. The announcement was made by the president's advisor on the move.
We have come to the decision that if we were to relocate the presidential office to the government complex in Gwanghwamun, we would not be able to find space for the state guest house, the main building, and the helipad.
The plan isn't immediately withdrawn, but rather the government decided to look at relocating over the long term. In his election campaign in 2017, Moon Jae-in argued that the presidential compound is too secluded, and he pledged to relocate the office to Gwanghwamun to stay in close contact with the people and with working-level officials. Gwanghwamun is not only the home of many government ministries, it's also been the scene of rallies and gatherings, both political and non-political. Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon has given the country's tech and construction industries his wishes for their best year yet and his vow to do his utmost to help out. At New Year's event on Friday, the PM hailed the nation's tech sector for setting world records, especially with 5G technology. He said investment in the 1990s put South Korea at the forefront of the third global industrial revolution with the best ICT and infrastructure. The PM said investment is essential to make the country's biotech sector and artificial intelligence do better and promised spending worth $18 billion for R&D. During a later event with representatives of the construction industry, he pledged to implement 61% of the government's annual budget in the first half of this year to stimulate the overall economy, including construction. He added that new inter-Korean cooperation on roads and railways will help bring them more projects. Back in December, President Moon Jae-in met with the nation's trade ministry to discuss ways to boost the manufacturing industry, considered a key growth engine of the Korean economy. The measures set to take effect this year include revitalizing and innovating the sector. Go Ryuni outlines what they are.
The Trade Ministry's policy plan for 2019 is going to be focused on manufacturing. The ministry said the stagnation in the manufacturing industry is mainly due to structural problems and the rising trend of trade protectionism on the global stage, which negatively affected the nation's exports. To reverse that, the ministry laid out specific plans for the industry's revitalization, mainly centered around manufacturing clusters. Revitalization will be carried out in various cities across the nation, and the ministry aims to create 26,000 jobs by 2022. In the western city of Gunsan, a complex just for exporting used vehicles is scheduled to be built so that local companies in the field can cooperate more efficiently. In Daegu, infrastructure related to autonomous vehicles will be created. In Gwangju, the government will create a hub for producing electronics related to fine dust, such as air purifiers. In Changwon, old industrial complexes will be transformed into new smart factories, which means an increase in automated manufacturing facilities. Another main part of the Trade Ministry's plan is innovating the sector. For manufacturing companies producing equipment and components, the government aims to invest more than $889.1 million for research and development. In terms of the auto industry, the government aims to encourage more people to drive environmentally friendly cars by providing subsidies. The ministry also vowed to foster new fields like developing hydrogen markets and financially supporting companies that specialize in robots. An economic expert says these measures will become more effective when companies from different industries work as a team.
For example, in the case of autonomous vehicles, companies in the auto sector cannot work alone, at least not how they used to some decades ago. They need to cooperate with companies in other sectors like ICT.
Ko Ryuni, Arirang News.
It seems South Koreans' preference for imported cars is growing. Industry watchers say the number of foreign-made vehicles sold in the country hit a record high last year. Woo Si-young helped us look beyond the digits.
More imported cars were sold in Korea last year than ever before, and they're taking up a growing share of the local auto market. The Korea Automobile Importers and Dealers Association said Friday that the number of newly registered imported cars topped 260,000 last year, up by 11.8% from 2017. Mercedes-Benz was the top choice among Koreans for the third consecutive year, with more than 70,000 vehicles registered in 2018. Its E300 4MATIC was the best-selling foreign car, with around 9,000 sales. BMW remained in second place, although the company's sales declined substantially after a spate of vehicles caught fire throughout the year. Japanese brands including Toyota and Lexus also ranked among the top 5, thanks to a boost in sales of hybrid models. Hybrid cars in general saw a surge in popularity, jumping 33% on year, although gasoline and diesel cars took up most of the sales. By region, it's clear that Korean drivers still prefer European vehicles, which accounted for more than 70% of imported cars registered last year. Japanese and US-made cars were the second and third most popular. The number of foreign-made vehicles in Korea has been consistently growing, taking up an estimated 16.7% of the domestic auto market, up by 1.5 percentage points from 2017, the highest ever annual growth rate. Woo Si-young, Arirang News.
South Korean gaming giant Nexon could be taken over by foreign entities. Sources say the founder Kim Jong-un is considering selling a 98% stake in Nexon's holding company. Yoon Jung-min has the full story.
Industry observers have been saying the founder of Nexon Corporation, Kim Jong-un, has reportedly been planning to sell off a controlling stake in Nexon's holding company, NEWSCENTER Corporation. In a press release on Friday, Kim did not deny the sell-off plan and announced that he's considering ways to make his company more competitive, hinting that sell-off could be one of the possible options. Media reports have suggested the founder is considering selling a 98.64% stake in the holding company. The stakes owned by himself, his wife, and by other companies are worth a total of $5.32 billion. NEWSCENTER is the largest shareholder of Nexon, which is listed on the Tokyo stock market and controls Nexon Korea. Market watchers say the estimated value of the stakes may be worth $9 billion when counting the value of other companies NXC currently owns. The sell-off is expected to be the most expensive of its kind in the domestic game industry. Industry watchers say potential buyers include Chinese tech firm Tencent and U.S. video game company Electronic Arts. Local games businesses have expressed concerns that it will be difficult for them to cooperate on industry-related issues if the gaming giant is taken over by a foreign company. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Meteor shower, one of the most fascinating celestial shows that can be seen with the human eye. It won't be visible in some parts of the world, but according to our Lee Seung-jae, if you're in Korea or if you can make it here before tonight, you'll be able to get a pretty good view of the phenomenon.
As the Earth revolves around the sun, it passes through streams of cosmic debris. And if you're lucky enough, you might be able to catch the result: colorful meteor showers that light up the night sky. If you're in Korea, meteor showers will brighten the night skies for around 48 hours starting Friday night. This meteor shower will be all the more special, as it's known as quadrantades. Compared with most other meteor showers, these are unusual, as they are thought to have originated from a passing asteroid. Although they tend to be fainter with fewer streaks in the sky, the moonless night sky should help people view the phenomenon.
You'll be able to see about 2 showers a minute, but that's during ideal conditions. To see more meteors, it's best to go to a place without much light pollution.
Experts say it's best to use your naked eye to watch the meteor shower, as binoculars and telescopes tend to limit your field of view. Finding a location that has a clear view of the entire night sky is key. Ideally, somewhere with dark skies away from city lights and traffic. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The South Korean Navy conducted its first maritime exercise of 2019 in the West Sea. The drill involved its newest guided missile frigate, ROKS or ROKS Chungbuk, as well as patrol vessels and a maritime helicopter in waters south of the buffer zone set by the two Koreas last year. Friday's session included technical maneuvers, live fire training, and another exercise to enhance cooperation in case of emergency. Captain Kim Hang-min, who was in charge of the exercise, said the training helped improve the teamwork of the new service members and reaffirm the Navy's determination to complete their missions under any circumstances. 2019 marks the 100th anniversary of Korea's March 1st independence movement. Many events are held to commemorate the occasion. One of them is a special exhibition held at Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Choi Si-young provides a glimpse of what's on display.
A special exhibition in Seoul is displaying Korean artifacts that wealthy collector Jeon Young-pil had saved from being taken out of the country during Japan's colonial rule. Held annually since 2014 by Kansong Art Museum and Seoul Design Foundation, the exhibition this year contains more artifacts than before, including some that are designated as national treasures.
To commemorate the 100th anniversary of the independence movement, we decided to recapture in depth the life of the collector who fought against Japan through culture and education.
And Jeon Young-pil did more than just collect Korean artifacts. During the colonial time, he paid to assume the ownership of a financially troubled secondary school to raise awareness of Korean identity among the youth. It is said that on every March 1st, when those students graduate, he read out loud the Declaration of Independence to them. He founded also the country's first modern private museum, which housed numerous Korean artifacts he collected. At antique auction shops during colonial time, he bought stacks of art products, all at the risk of being sold to wealthy Japanese collectors. Most were porcelain and some have now been designated as national treasures. Jeon ventured overseas to buy back the finest porcelain collection made under the Goryeo dynasty. The collector not only acquired Korean artifacts in downtown Seoul during the colonial period, but also traveled as far as Japan to safeguard Korea's cultural assets.
The fact that the collector invested his wealth to save our artifacts is a victory for us descendants.
The exhibition will run into the end of March this year at the Dongdaemun Design Plaza. Choi Si-young, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle Bach at the Weather Center for the updates you need. Michelle, the dust concentration is intensifying where it was already high, and it's expanding into more places.
Yes, now the inflow of smoke from China has dust building up in Korea, especially here in Seoul and the western parts of the peninsula. This will only get worse into the night and through the whole weekend, so if you are heading out to watch the meteor showers tonight, make sure you have your masks on. And Saturday afternoon will be relatively comfortable like today, with readings all above freezing. And meanwhile, Beijing will be under lots of clouds tomorrow, while Tokyo will be a whole lot warmer, reaching into the teens. Now, however, freezing mornings continue for us, with Seoul starting the day at -7 degrees Celsius, and Jeju still has rain over there. And daytime highs are very similar to today. Seoul at 1 degree, while Daegu and Gyeongju hit 6 degrees. For the next couple of days, it's mostly going to stay moderate without any precipitation and temperatures in their seasonal norms. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
That's all we have for you in tonight's edition of Arirang News Center. Thank you for staying with us. Have a pleasant weekend.
네, 아리랑 TV 시청자 여러분.